Well, welcome guys to a very special session with William Murray from jvfocus.com. I'm delighted to have Australia's most top in demand copywriter, marketing strategist, best-selling author and speaker, Bret Thomson on the call with us, and James Brown. And I think JB will probably say a few words before we get underway.
Yeah, I won't hold up things much, but just want to say this is real cool. I can tell you I don't wake up at this ungodly hour in the morning for too many people, except my wife is scratching my back, or the kids decided to have a cry. But for this guy, I'll wake up any time of the day to hear him speak. Had the pleasure of finally meeting him in Chiang Mai at Leon J's FusionHQ event. So I know everybody is in for a real treat to chat with Bret. Thanks, mate, for joining us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, guys. It was lovely to hear, and I must say, out of all the introductions I've had, that's definitely been the most recent. Joking, but no, it's all cool, man. Guys, that was look, it's glad to join you guys, and I'm happy to share everything I can in the. What do you got, about an hour's time? Is that right?
Yeah, we'll play it by ear. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So yeah, look, I'll just hand it to you guys just to fire questions. I mean, you guys know what all the members of jvfocus, which is an awesome concept. As soon as you told me what it was all about, I thought it was fantastic. So any way I can help in today's call for those guys and their specific needs, then just fire away, man. You got me 100%.
Excellent, thanks, Bret. I guess I was quite fascinated by your story, where I think you mentioned on your blog that you'd failed English during school, but yet went on to be one of the sort of most in-demand copywriters in Australia. I'd be very interested in, I'm sure everyone listening to the call as well would be interested how you made that transition to get into writing.
Yeah, good. It's a good starting point, isn't it? And I quite like telling my story because I know it gives a lot of people hope. And look, you can't really. I'm yet to find someone who has poorer English skills than myself. But I must say, since I've learned copywriting, my English has got much gooder. But it's definitely schooling was a real kind of social event for me, to be honest with you. And I can pretty much say I went all through school without reading a book. And I somehow managed to wing it all the way through school. Actually, the only things I did read were Mad magazines. Did you guys have Mad magazines? I know you would have seen that, JB. But
I sure did.
Yeah, or Choose Your Own Adventures. A couple of those. I think that's the only thing I've ever read. And really, the school was kind of like I said, just a big social event for me. I was kind of. I remember getting through to year 12 in grade. That's when you graduate up in Australia, and I remember celebrating as soon as school finished, just yelling out, "Fantastic! I never have to be forced to read a book again," and just then I spent probably the next 10 years. I was a full-time investor, and I invested about 90% of my income on my social life, and it was a pretty messy time. And I remember in that time, I did read one thing. I came across a newspaper, and there was an article that kind of stood out and said how alcohol affects your brain. I thought, oh no, what's this all about? So that's the first thing I read for years. I read how bad alcohol is for your brain. So I remember standing at the table. I slammed my hand on the table, and I said, right, from this moment on, I'm never ever going to read again. That's how determined I was. So how did I get into copywriting? Right, this is a funny transition. In my kind of partying lifestyle, I accidentally became a father. I don't mind saying that because my boy, I became twin boys. I mean, what an introduction into fatherhood.
Yeah.
You're like 20 years old, and all of a sudden you got twin boys, and I thought, oh wow, this is interesting. But I took that really seriously. You know, yeah. Look, my upbringing was awesome. You know, I was raised as an only child, which annoyed my brothers and sisters. But I had a good family foundation, so I took that very, very seriously, and I thought, wow, I've better start looking for I've got to start looking after other people now. So I had this big desire to want to become smarter, really, because and motivated to do something with my life. So at the time, I was living with there was 8 of us, eight bachelors, and living with nightclub owners, right? And there was there was one guy out of us, which was very different. He owned the nightclub, and what made him different was in his room it was full of books. And I remember thinking, what a stupid thing to put in your room. If you could put anything, why would you put books in there? And he always used to read. And anyway, so I walked in there one day when I kind of had a bit of a wake-up call about life and said, I'm going to pick a book and read. I want to educate myself. I had no idea what I was looking for. There was just books and spines of books everywhere. And I just, one kind of jumped out at me, and it said, Awaken the Giant Within by Anthony Robbins.
Okay.
I said, okay, what's this all about? Picked it up, and it was how to create your own destiny and transform your life in spiritual, physical, mental, and financially, and all that kind of stuff. I said, all right, we'll start with this. And it's like about a 400-page book, so it's a bit of a monster to start with.
Yeah.
And I set my first goal. I said, I'll read 10 minutes a day, and that's it. And so after a few nights, 10 minutes stop, 10 minutes stop. After a little while, I read and looked at the time, and it was about 22 minutes. I thought, oh wow, I can take tomorrow night off now. and after about 80 pages of that book, I gave up pretty much all my bad habits, and I really became a personal development junkie. Right, I used to buy books and buy CDs or tapes and audios, and I became. And when you get passionate about something, you can't help but preach it to your mates. So I very quickly burnt a lot of mates.
Yeah.
Just they don't like hearing that stuff when they're at 3 o'clock in the morning at a pub. So So look, and from that I ended up getting into network marketing, which I never knew anything about that before, but that was just a real great environment for personal development and facing your fears and I mean, as far as when it comes to selling, that's like the school of hard knocks on steroids, right? And I was in there for 8 years, made a little bit of money, but gosh, I toughened up and really became very fearless with dealing with people and selling and things like that. And can't say I made a lot of money, but it was good grounding for me. Anyway, in that time, I met some friends by the name of, I met some people called Andrew and Daryl Grant, who are well-known internet marketers here in Australia. And they took me to a seminar in Melbourne. Met a guy, it was run by a guy called Mal Emery, who's known as the millionaire maker in Australia. He kind of came on stage and said, what I'm going to share with you now has made me more money than anything I've ever done in my whole life. And he said, it's the art of writing compelling words on paper, better known as copywriting. And I thought, oh no, because I made the decision, whatever this guy says, I'm just going to do it. And he said this was the thing, right? At that time, a few months earlier, I've got to wind it back a little bit, but all through those years, I'd maintained a job. I was working at Tweed Heads selling nuts and bolts at a nuts and bolts shop in Tweed Heads.
Okay.
And I kind of got a job there just to maintain my party life. But and here's what can happen if you don't set a goal. And the thing is, 15 years later, I was still there. And I just knew I was meant to be doing something else in my life. And I decided I wanted to run personal development workshops for kids and teach kids confidence, self-esteem, communication skills, and all that kind of stuff. And I asked everyone what they thought of the idea, and everyone said, fantastic, brilliant, kids really need it, you should go for it. So I handed in my resignation, jumped into my first business with no experience, and I learned very quickly you can have a good idea on one side, but if you don't know marketing, then you can lose a lot of money. And that's what happened to me, because everyone thought it was a great idea, but no one was prepared to pay for it.
Yep.
And so I started to learn marketing and copywriting from a guy by the name of Pete Godfrey, who's now one of my best mates.
Okay.
And it worked really well for me, and I started getting some results in my business. Then people started approaching me to write copy for them, and then within 6 months, Mal Emery approached me to write for him, and he put me on a nice 6-figure income kind of salary just to be his personal copywriter.
Wow.
It happened really quick. I went from my first year of business, I earned $16,000 for the year, which was pretty tough, raising some kids.
Sure.
And to the next 12 months, thanks to my copywriting, I turned over $200,000 just because of the skills I learned. So that's the real short version of the story, but that's not your regular journey for a successful copywriter.
No, absolutely not. I mean, how long was the transition then from when you got into copywriting to where you are now? Is it a few years? And
that's probably about 8 years ago.
8 years.
So
now.
I still I've done a lot of fantastic things, and I've just gone from strength to strength, which is really exciting. And I think it's a lot to do with my I believe that in life you can only go as far as your self-esteem goes. I mean, you can be the most skilled copywriter, but if your self-worth isn't at a high level, then you'll hit the ceiling. It doesn't matter how good your skill is.
Sure.
So I had to equally work, still to this day, I equally have to work on my personal development to take me to the next level, as well as my copywriting skills.
Now, personally, I find copywriting one of the most difficult things about marketing for me. Something I've always struggled with, and I think JB will tell you as well, I'd rather stick hot needles in my eyes than try and write copy. And so what kind of advice would you give for someone in my position? I mean, I had terrible English during school as well. I walked out on most of my exams and a little bit dyslexic. And if somebody in my position, what advice would you give sort of stepping into trying to learn the basics of copywriting?
Well, the good news, even if you are dyslexic, someone came up to me the other a while ago at a seminar and said, I really want to learn copywriting, but I'm dyslexic. And I said, hey, that's okay, mate. You can do it. It's a learned skill, and things. And I gave him some advice, and he said, oh, that's fantastic, but that's music to my ass. So there is hope for you, William.
I was just about to say I've got problems spelling my worms, but
So mate, look, to answer your question, I mean, I tell people straight away, just take the pressure off yourself. Don't be so intimidated by copywriting. And really, it really is a good starting point. It's just write as you speak. Okay, forget what you learn in English, because being institutionalized is only going to slow you down and bog you down, and people don't like reading. Here's the thing, people feel compelled to use big words, and I think it's a bit of an ego thing. They're trying to, even in conversation, they try and sound intelligent, and when they write in, and the reason being is, and you can't blame people for doing this, is because if you look at all the textbooks in school, it's so boring. I remember it was only a few weeks ago I went to my twin boys' graduation, because they're like 17 now. Yeah. And my best mates in the world, and they're graduating, and we had to pick what career choices they wanted to go to. Oh yeah. And there was information on each kind of topic, and I'm reading through, and I think, oh my God, I can't even get past the first paragraph. It just puts me to sleep. So that's what kids grow up on, and So anyone who wants to know copywriting, you've got to flush that. Right? You've got to write as you speak. Right? Use small words, short sentences. Make it conversational. Like, of the best advice I can give you is, if you need to write a sales letter or a sales message, just sit down in front of someone who you feel comfortable with, like your friend, family, or colleague, and sell your idea to them, sell your business idea to them, and record it. Record the whole conversation. Invite them to throw up some objections, and you handle it, and record the whole thing, and you get that transcribed. And when it comes back to you, that's probably about 70% of your sales letter or sales message.
Yeah.
I know you take out all the ums and the ahs, but you leave all the rest of the stuff in there, like, oh, by the way, or one more thing, I forgot to say this. I'll get to that shortly, but first I want to say this. All those conversational connectors, that's the glue that keep people reading.
Okay.
And that's what institutionalized writing, they get rid of that, and it just bores people.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's something I've personally always wanted to learn, but I think it's my attention span doesn't do me any favours.
Yeah, understand. But,
GB, you wanting to hop in at this point? And
Just yeah, such a cool story. How Bret got started, and
yeah, absolutely.
I remember the power of copywriting. Just in my own life, it was the start of incredible changes. Hanging out with Chris Newton and these people, and taking the newspaper advertisement that I'd been currently running for my natural therapies business, and just a few changes, you know. I thought they were sort of like cosmetic changes, you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't see how saying this or twisting this around to that would make any difference, but holy shit, did my telephone ring from then on till 2 years later using that same advertisement, and I just became fascinated with it. I thought, yeah, copywriting, boring, sleep, you know, what do I need that for? But it's just the power of the glue, you know. Everybody thinks marketing is about being creative and advertising and that sort of stuff, and you've got to pluck this creative genius from out of your nether region somewhere, and you know, hope that it stacks up. But really, it's some very, very simple basics, and copywriting being one of them. But I guess it's like any discipline, you know, like you want to lose weight, you got to put the fork down, right? And
Yeah.
exercise and do those sorts of things. If you want to achieve any sort of thing, you gotta you know, exercise it regularly. So that is the tough one. But yeah, copywriting just blew me away. That something the power of words. Then I truly understood, because I was in such a financial mess with either the electricity company ringing me up one week to threaten to cut my power off, or it was somebody else ringing up and, you know, having to beg my dad for just a bit more money to keep my clinic open, sort of thing. At that stage, it was tough, really tough. So yeah, you know, ever since then I've either tried to do it myself, or you know, pay somebody else. When I have the luxury of paying somebody else, I always look for the talent and get them on board to do it. You just can't beat it.
Yeah, that's a good point you made there, mate. And I love the saying that bad copy is always more expensive than paying for good copy.
It is.
Yeah.
How true.
Yeah, a lot of people save a few bucks on the front end, either try to do it themselves, which is fine, or pay for you know, a cheap ass copywriter on Odesk or something. And I think, oh yeah, they've saved a few bucks there, but they've just left like piles of money on the table of potential sales that they could have enjoyed, but just by getting someone who really understands the craft. And yeah, so it is a very one of the most overlooked skills in the marketing world, and the smart marketers know it. I mean, you look at all the internet marketers out there, and like I just know on, you know, Frank Kern, Evan Pagan, you know, or Dan Kennedy, obviously, all those guys, well, they just rave about copywriting, and their core skill was copywriting at the beginning, and it's such a common story, because it really is one of the foundation kind of skills for successful marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I was just about to say, what kind of importance do you put on copywriting as an element for a digital product? I mean, I guess it's very high.
Well, that's a good question, and this answer might actually surprise you, what I'm going to say. But I remember listening to an interview with Marianne Tribbley,
Yeah.
who's she took Early to Rise from, I could get the numbers wrong here, but I'm pretty sure she took it from a $11 million company to a $100 million company, or it could be completely wrong.
Wow.
But it was something significant in the matter of 12 to 18 months. Right? And she's worked with one of the greatest copywriters side by side, which is Clayton Makepeace, for years. Right? So she really knows her stuff. And she was saying the success of a campaign can be broken down in this way: 60% is the market and who you actually, the audience you're writing to.
Okay.
30% is the offer you make to them, and 10% is the copywriting. Now, when I first heard that, I thought, oh, that makes the copywriting sound not very important. But you've got to understand that, you know, communicating with your market and crafting the offer, the copywriting is weaved in all around that, because
Sure.
you can have the best product. So many people focus on the product, and then if they have a weak copywriting to carry that into the market, then it'll just fall on deaf ears, and it'll only get tiny response.
Yeah.
So,
or they completely ignore the market altogether and just assume the product's going to be a good fit.
That's right. And on the other side, you can have the most amazing product in the world, but if it's going to an audience which is the wrong audience, then obviously you're not going to get a take on it as well. So copywriting is important. When on the subject of the offer, see, a confused prospect will never buy.
Yeah.
And if anyone's taking notes, that's a write it downer. A confused prospect will never buy. So when I write copy in it over the years, I used to get my twin boys, when they were about 12 or 13, get them to read it out aloud to me. And sure, I'd have to bribe them, because I'm their dad.
As you do, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, the comprehension rate of Westerners out there is equivalent to a grade 8 student or a 12 or 13-year-old. So, and when they used to read it out to me, if they fumbled, I'd wait, stop, and I'd get a red pen, I'd put a circle around it, so keep going, and then I'd go back, and anywhere there was a red circle, I'd reword it, so I'd just dumb it down,
So
because if they tripped up, then then your reader will trip up, and if your reader trips up, they'll start skim reading, and you'll break them out of the flow that you want.
Gotcha.
So everything, when people come to your website, there's before they even read one letter of one word, they if first of all, if the site looks ugly and messy, that causes instant sales friction. So you're already behind the 8 ball already. But if you can get them to read your headline, which is the most important thing, then that's the first step of the journey. So a lot of people can have the most amazing offer and product or guarantee, but if the headline is weak, then they're not even going to get to that part. So that's probably one of the big elements that whoever's listening to this needs to understand, that for when I take on a project, and like a lot of projects I take on now, around about 25K or above.
Yeah.
And, I spend probably about 60% of my time researching the market, what they want, and then coming up with a big idea, and then coming up with a headline. And I spend about 30% writing the rest of the copy. But all that time is coming up, is researching the market and coming up with that headline and the big idea. And I know for a fact most business owners don't do that.
Yeah.
They spend most of their time working on the product or other stuff that really doesn't make the conversions happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. When it's really good insights, especially like the sort of way that copy or general grammar's read as well with your sons at 12 and 13 years old. That's a big top tip, actually.
Yeah, and here's the thing: if a lot of people, if you don't have access to, kids to do that for you, well, read it out loud yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I thought you were going to go and suggest we go and start making a few kids, mate.
Or just going down to local school and helping yourself to few.
Yeah, well, actually, there was a famous copywriter from the States used to go down to the local supermarket and pay one of the bag people, pay them $10. And they thought, oh, fantastic! They just read it back to them for $10.
Oh, wow!
That's one of the best $10 they could ever spend.
Wow!
Because when you write and you're the business owner, you're so entrenched in the market and you know it so well, and you're so in your head all the time that you need an independent person. And I remember I used to write for some of the biggest marketers here in Australia, and I've helped them make campaigns that have brought them in $15 million per month for 12 months. It's really big deals. And before I handed my stuff in, I used to get my 13-year-old boy to read out the offer to me. If they couldn't understand the offer, then I would simplify it. So before, we're talking about $100 million projects here that got critiqued by a 13-year-old boy. Right, and it worked. I remember one campaign I did for them, one company, they said, Brett, all right, here's the plan. We want to launch this product, and if you just do what we say, we'll make $500,000 in 4 weeks. And they showed me, and I was pretty green at this stage, and I was I was surrounded by a big bunch of corporates, which is not really my scene, but I had a look at it, and I could have easily done what they said, but I thought, no, there's a better way to do this, guys. So I proposed a different option, and there's only one guy who backed me because he kind of knew what I was all about. So we went with my way. So instead of making $500,000 in 4 weeks, I made them $1.6 million in 2 weeks. And purely because I dumbed it down, simplified it, and just created a wicked email strategy, which is building up some anticipation around an early bird notification, and then pointing them to a video sales letter, all that just kind of cool stuff which they didn't really know about.
Yeah.
And but again, the offer, if I often explain my offers to people, and if it sounds too confusing, even though it sounds so outrageous and unbelievable, but if it's just too confusing for people, then they're not going to take action, because the confused buyer doesn't act. So so I guess, and just following on from that story, I want to say that if you, like some copywriters, they'll pay people $10-15 to read their stuff back to them, but at the very least, just have the next day after you've written it, have a break from it, sleep, and then go back the next day and read it out loud. And if you trip up, then you want to try and dumb it down and simplify it.
Yeah, that's an excellent tip. And I'll certainly be trying that myself next time I attempt copy. Probably maybe take one of the guys on to ask a few questions, Brett, if that's okay.
Sure, man, no worries.
Yeah, okay. Steve, I'll bring you on, buddy. Hope you're not doing anything that you shouldn't be doing. Steve, can you talk? Good. You're on the
Yeah, I'm
call
here.
with Bret.
I'm all innocent. Nothing dodgy going on here.
How
This
you
has been
going,
a really.
Steve?
Huh?
How are you, mate?
Sorry? I'm really good. Yeah. It's been a long day, but been very very busy. So yeah, it's all going good here. It's been a
Excellent.
really useful hearing you talk, actually, Brett.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you actually answered one of my questions already. I was gonna jump in and say that if you're gonna focus on one aspect of the sales page, what would it be? And you say headline. That's
Yeah.
that's really interesting. But in terms of when you're coming to writing your sales page, do you have like a checklist of things that you want to sort of include in there? So you start with the headline, and then you go, here's the problem that you're facing, and then you introduce the offer, and maybe you'll throw some testimonials or something else. And do you have like a checklist of things that you try and get in there, or is it really just dependent on the offer itself and the market?
Yeah, okay. Good question, mate. There's two answers to that. The other one's the second answer is a little bit more sophisticated for it's more for pro copywriters who dissect winning sales out of formulas, and it's really micro managed, you know. But in the copywriting world, we call them copywriting clicks, like clicks to the dial. If you're going to click, if you're in front of a safe and you're trying to crack open a lock, you just turn the lock and you listen for the clicks, and then all of a sudden you open the door and you get your treasure, right? So in the copyright in a sales letter we have a number of clicks. There's hundreds of them, and and different markets require different clicks. And for instance, it could be takeaway selling is one of it. Another one could be proof, like testimonials. It could be common enemy, which means like all these different things, right? It's a very sophisticated process that the pro copywriters go through, but a good starting point for anyone and a basic formula to follow is AIDA, which is grab their attention with the headline, stir up some interest, okay, then create desire, and then have a call to action. So you can Google that, or copyright formulas and things like that. There's different kind of formulas you can follow, but that's a good starting point. But I guess getting back to your original question, what's the most important thing to focus on? You're right, the headline is the most important, but you've really got to spend a big amount of time on the offer, because you can do everything right. You can have the most amazing headline and fantastic conversational copy. You can flood it with testimonials and all the rest. But if your offer is real weak and uninspiring, then you won't get any sales. So I often when I take on a client, they'll give me the project, and if I find that the offer's too weak, I'll suggest adding some more bonuses and things like that just to make it irresistible. So I just want to make sure you understand that is to really try and crank up your offer so it becomes irresistible. But if you're going to make it irresistible, very important to make it believable, because in our industry we're surrounded by hype and over promises. So it has to be irresistible but believable. And one of the best elements you can to make it believable is proof. That's why testimonials are so critical. At the bare bottom of the barrel is written testimonials. If you want to step it up, you get video testimonials. Also get before and after, do demonstrations. One of the best ways to add proof to a sales page is a demonstration. That's why in the weight loss industry there's lots of before and after photos, because you don't need copy. Once you've got before and after photos, that carries so much weight to the marketing piece, because it's just undeniable. So as far as structure to a sales letter goes, mate, come up with the cracker headline and also the offer, because sometimes your offer can be talked about in the headline as well. So I kind of spend a fair bit of time on my offer, and that could influence the headline. So there's a bit of a roundabout way of answering that, man. But,
No, man, that was perfect. That was really good advice. Yeah, basically answered everything I needed.
Awesome, buddy. So easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, Brett. I mean, I've seen, you know, some kind of respected copywriters that have very complex formulas for a template, you know, for doing sales copy, and even after watching instructional videos, it's confused living daylights out of me, and I think I'll try the IDA approach next time.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's plenty of there are different formulas out there.
Yeah.
But that's just a good basic formula for any advertising, even in a short space ad for a newspaper or anything like that. Even for a Facebook ad, you know, grab their attention, get them interested, and create some desire to want to know more.
Yeah.
You know, and you can do that in 90 characters for a Facebook ad if need be.
Bit of a challenge for me.
Yeah, it does.
Well,
But I mean, that's.
Oh, sorry,
So
mate.
I'll
Sorry.
just while it's in my head, I've got to get it out as well. And this might help people if you have to write a sales letter or a sales piece or even just an email where you want people to take action. Then if you ever get writer's block, where you don't know where to start and you're staring at a blank screen, straight away that tells me that you haven't researched the market enough. Okay, because if you really understand the market and what they want, then you won't. Then you'll have enough different angles to come at them with. So you have to really understand the market and the product, obviously. So that's if you do get stuck and staring at a blank screen, you've got to research the market more. But to get you started, because sometimes you can procrastinate and think, what I'm going to write, and you put so much high expectation on yourself to make it great. And so I want to let people know out there that don't put so much pressure on yourself when you want to write copy. And I want to allow yourself to be bad to start with. Give yourself permission to write sucky copy. Right? I remember sometimes when I've had major deadlines, and I just haven't been in the flow to write. And sometimes I wait for inspiration, and that's a whole other call I can talk to you about getting in the vibe to write. But sometimes you've got no choice; you just have to start, and it becomes very mechanical. But so I tell myself, all right, I'm going to start off and just write bad. And when I start writing a sales letter, I start by writing out 100 headlines. Okay,
Wow.
and I just keep on going until I get to 100. And the first ones are so bad that I'd be embarrassed to show someone. If it was in the making money category, I might start off with how to be rich.
Okay.
Or maybe not that bad, but I just start off being bad because motion, you've got to get in the motion.
Yeah.
You know when you write and all of a sudden you get a flood of ideas and you can't write fast enough. Well, that happens when you're in motion. It starts off a bit slow, but once you get the cogs turning, after a while, then all of a sudden, bang, it'll happen. So the best advice I can give you is just start. Just write crap copy, get it out there. Write 100 headlines. Just keep going, because maybe number 58 will just go bang, and you just get better and better and better. And the cool thing is, if you get to 100, which I encourage you to, even if you found a good one, keep going to 100, because you can still use all of the other ones for sub-headlines through the copy. You can use them for email subject lines or blog post titles or ideas for video blogs. So they're not all gone to waste. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have anything else you want to ask, Steve, before I mute you back up?
One more quick little thing, actually.
Sure.
So when you're writing, so you say you've written your first draft or whatever draft, and you're tweaking the sales letter, how do you know when to stop? Like, when is it ready? When is it done?
Okay, so just let me ask that question back to you. So you're asking me is when you've written a draft of a sales letter, how do you know when it's done?
Well, yeah, I mean, essentially, like, say you're quite happy with the copy you've got, but you kind of find yourself making little tweaks here and there. And is there case for overdoing it? And should you just stop and sort of accept that that's it, it's done?
Yeah, look, good question, man. I think well, a lot of a lot of my I guess a lot of it is kind of relates back to a deadline. If you're working towards a deadline, when I write, because here's the thing: if you're waiting for the perfect sales letter, you're actually costing yourself money, because a sales letter that's only 50% good, that's online, is going to make a lot more money than a sales letter that's 90% finished that hasn't even been put up online yet. You know what I mean? So I guess you want to get it up there as quick as you can, and you'll never be as perfect in your mind, but that's the cool thing with split testing. You can always go back and tweak it. But I guess what I do from a sales point of view, before I write the sales letter, and of going through the process of writing headlines and things like that, I'll work out what chunks of I need in the sales letter. Like I'll need like the story, if there's a great story, and people love stories, and stories are one of the most powerful influences you can use, because if you make statements all this time, statements can be challenged, but stories can be believed or will be believed. So always try and find a story, because people really like following stories right to the end. So other elements I might have is who this is for and who this is not for. I could have the guarantee. I could have 3 different call to actions. One to do based around fear of missing out. One to do about desire, and I could do a thing called future pacing, which I put them I put them into the future, and I say, imagine after they've used your product. So say, imagine 6 months from now, it's you'll wake up naturally with no alarm clock. You've just made another $1,200, whatever, and you can you just put them in the future of what it's going to be like after they've used your product. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is I created a number of elements that I want in the sales letter, and then so when I have all those elements written and all nicely pieced together, that's when I know that the sales letter is finished. And here's something I really want you to understand: a sales letter is not written. Okay, a sales letter is compiled. Okay, so it's not written from start to finish. I start at the headline, then I'll write the offer, then I'll go up and write the intro, then I'll write bullet points, and I'll go and write the close. So a sales letter is compiled, it's not written. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense.
Yeah. So how do you know when it's finished? Look, I'll just make sure that all the elements have been covered and they're as tight as they can. I'll try and, after I've written the sales letter, I'll go back and try and cut out as much of it as I can and trim it, because you don't want to waffle on. And I'll more than likely cut out about a quarter sometimes of stuff, and just try and tighten it up, because you want to try and get your message across shortest and punchiest as you can, but as long as you hit all the emotional hot buttons.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
It's excellent.
Nice.
Sorry, I was furiously taking notes there as well. So
Yeah, me too.
thanks,
Yeah.
Steve, for your questions, and I'm just going to mute you back up.
Thanks, man.
Okay, Brett, I'm going to take Stefan on. I've got a couple of questions I'd like to ask in a wee bit. I'll just quickly bring Stefan on.
No worries.
Thanks, mate. Stefan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Do you hear me?
I can hear you fine. You're on the call with Brett.
That's cool. Hi, Brad.
Good day,
Brett,
Stephen. How are
Brett.
you, mate?
I'm good. Yeah, I just want to say the sales copy thing. That's a big darkness for me. First of all, I'm not native English speaker, but trying to do this copywriting is it's a big hurdle. But I'm learning and eager, so it was very interesting to listen what you were saying here. But one question that I have, that but your view of it, and so if you have this long sales copies or short sales copies, but you also have the video, what do you see any trends, or which one do you prefer? Do you think it's the way to go
Yeah,
for?
good question, Ed. So I guess what you're asking is, what do you think what is best suited, long copy or short copy or video sales that are? Well, on the weekend I spoke to an audience. There was probably about 300 odd people. And I said, everyone put your hand up who prefers, comparing a video sales letter to a long form sales letter, who'd prefer to watch a video? And then the next question was, and who'd prefer to read instead of watching the video? And amazingly, it always happens, it's around about 50%, 50-50. I always used to find that fascinating. I thought, because every time you mention long form sales letter, you hear people say, oh, no one's going to read all that. Gosh, as if anyone will read that. That's ridiculous, right? And for the most part, they're right. Most people won't read all of it. And this is the important part, right? The reason why long copy has proven to outperform short copy in for the last 200 centuries is because for people to buy from you and take action and whip out the credit card and buy from you, especially on the internet, it's the most distrusted medium in the world, and they have to have a number of boxes in their mind that you've got to tick. There's a big trust and belief barrier that they've got to overcome. Now, if they haven't any objections or unanswered questions, then they're not going to buy from you. So, and this is a writer downer, and that is, one objection missed is a sale missed. So one objection missed is a sale missed. So people say, oh, how long does it need to be? Well, the length, it can never be too long, but it can be too boring, right? You don't want to dribble on and waffle if it's too boring, because people will stop reading. So you've got to make it short and punchy as you can, but you've got to make sure you cover every single objection and hit every single hot button, because people will buy from you for all different reasons. Sure, there's going to be a general, like a shared desire, which is most common, but there's a lot of people that have all different objections and reasons. So you've got to make sure you overcome all objections and hit all the hot buttons. Now, so sometimes that can take 2 pages, 4 pages, or I did a sales letter recently if it was 32 pages because I was selling the $4,000 home study course, right? Now with video sales letters, it's the same deal. All the video sales letter is, it's a bird's eye view of a long form sales letter. So you're looking at it, it's coming at you, front on. So, but a lot of people get frustrated because they can't see the control. They don't know how long the video is going for and all that kind of stuff. I mean, what I do and with my campaigns is I have both. I have a video sales letter at the top and then a long form sales letter underneath. So people can, if they want to scroll down and read, at least they're listening to it as well. But some markets only have the video sales letter by itself because they want complete isolated concentration, and that's it. And some of the, one of the biggest ebooks ever sold right now is Truth About Abs. And as you know, if you've seen that, it's over $3 million a year of sales, which is not bad for an ebook. And that's the video sales letter. But if you click off, it'll take you to a long form sales letter. So so the answer is always split testing. There's not one answer for it, and what works for one market won't necessarily work for another market. So, but I guess to answer your question specifically, you just have to test. But what I do personally, I like to have both, because if 50% like reading and 50% like video, then I'm going to put both up there.
Yeah, that's good. Anyway, yeah, that makes sense. You cover even more by doing that as well. So. Yeah,
and you can have them on the same page, or you can have one that click off, whatever. But it's just a matter of testing. But I know there's a big portion of people who, despite everyone turning their nose to long form sales letters, they can absorb the information faster by reading it, and that's so that always helps as well. So I always have both.
Cool. Thank
Excellent.
you very much.
Excellent.
No
Thanks
worries.
for that, Brett, and thanks for your question, Stefan. I'm just going to mute you up. Just one more to go, Brett, and then we'll have a quick chat and we'll wrap up. I know you're a very busy guy and I don't want to hold you up too much. And I know GB
No
Hey
worries,
guys, I'm going to have to be
Yeah, I was just
rude
gonna
and
say-
disappear.
No worries, GB.
Too easy, JB.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much for your time today, Brett.
No, I appreciate it, man. No, thanks for organising it. No worries at all.
And I look forward to speaking to you again shortly, buddy. You take care.
Rightio. Catch you, mate.
Thanks,
Bye.
William.
Catch you later.
Thanks, guys.
GB.
Bye now.
Take care. Okay, I'm going to take a fellow Aussie on, Brett from Australia, Gordon Russell.
Awesome.
Gordon, are you able to talk?
Hijack me, William. Why don't you? Yes, I can talk.
Good, good.
You know I can
Call
talk.
Brett.
I can talk underwater with a mouthful of marbles. I actually did have a question myself, and it was about. You spoke about writer's block, but I quite often get a lot of distractions, and the moment that I'm distracted, trying to get back into writing again absolutely blows me away. It's very difficult to get focused again. What do you do, Brett, to get refocused?
Oh man, I'm so glad you asked this question, because this is something that us writers still struggle with and fight every day. Now everyone has different systems, and what I use is from one of the famous copywriters called Edward Schwartz, which and what I do, I have a timer on my iPhone for 33 minutes, right? So before I write in chunks and blocks, and I generally, with my concentration, I can only really focus on 33 minutes. If I try and make it an hour, I just get too fidgety and I just can't work. So I work in 33-minute blocks. And in that 33-minute block, I make sure that the phone's turned off, that no one can contact me through Skype. I'm not going to check my email or Facebook. I'm going to make sure none of the family, all the family knows that I'm in a writing block. I've got to make sure I've had something to eat and I've had something to drink. I'm not going to need to go to the bathroom or anything. That 33-minute block has got to be complete focus and isolated writing time. Now, I'll tell you now, if you do 4 of those blocks a day, then you'll be amazed at how much you do. It's really fascinating. One 33-minute isolated block of writing time can be more productive than 4 hours of, or half a day or more, of just scattered, patchy writing. Does that make sense? So, and
Yeah,
as
it
soon as
absolutely does.
yeah, so as soon as the 33-minute block has finished, I'll just finish a sentence, and then I'll get up, have a walk, have something to eat, might play the guitar for 5 minutes, and come back. I won't take like a half hour off. I'll only take like 5 minutes off, and then I'll come back and I'll do another block.
I've got 3 children. I've got 3 children. They've got a habit of walking in and distracting me. Or my wife, she loves me and wants to talk to me occasionally. So she'll talk to me right in the moment where I'm concentrated and I'm very, very focused. And the moment I lose it, it's gone. And then trying to get that back. Sometimes it can actually take a day before I get back into that mood to actually sit there and write. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you got any tips for instantly refocusing.
Instantly refocusing. I guess a big part of what I do is before I even put pen to paper, is coming up with a big idea, and I kind of meditate and visualize on that. And I'm not kind of like a tree hugging hippie or anything like that. And I would never try and teach anyone how to meditate because I don't think I'm that great at it. But I guess what I do before I write is I spend a lot of time crafting the big idea. Okay, and the big idea could be even just what you're going to write about in an email, right? So, and I remind myself that most busy entrepreneurs and business owners, we're so busy, but we don't actually put in our diary time to think, right? And you know, Isaac Newton, he was he went to Cambridge University, and he was a high scholar and all the rest, but the plague went through the university and shut the university down for 2 years, and he had nowhere to learn, right? So he had to stay home, and instead of learning, he started thinking. And in that time, he came up with the world's greatest scientific breakthroughs because he stopped learning and started thinking, right? And so I always give myself time to think and just get the clutter out and get away from the computer, get a notepad and pen, close my eyes, and really try and become my client. You know, you think like your client, become your client, and that's where some of the big ideas come up from. And once you've got that, that's a real good basis you can always go back to. So I hope that helps, because once
it helps greatly. It almost sounds like you're putting down a plan before you begin your project, and you got clarity, so you can come back and pick up from where you left off.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. And also it's important to tell your wife about this 33-minute plan. Now, you don't have to, 33 minutes is what I work to. John Carton works in 50-minute blocks, right? He does 50 minutes on, then I think he takes 10 minutes off. Then 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off. He might do 4 of them a day. And he's one of the best copywriters in the world, John Carton. Dan Kennedy, completely different. He's a freak. He has a writing. He gives himself. He starts in the morning and doesn't get off his seat until he's finished. And he could he's hard to match, that guy. But everyone has different cycles that they can stick to. But it's important I mean, I'm the same. My bride, my wife, she's at home with me as well, and I'll tell her, honey, I'm just about to go and do a 33-minute block. She goes, no worries, and she knows for the next 33 minutes that there's got to be no distractions. So and it really helps. And so if I can get 6 of those done in a day, oh my God, I've done so much work in that time. It's amazing. And I even do that. This is getting a little bit, breaking it down. It's very dangerous. One of the biggest dangers for me is email. I can get really caught up in email, and it's the biggest time vampire that's around. So I'll put my timer on for 15 minutes or 10 minutes, and I'll go and check my inbox, and that's it. And then I won't go back to it till 2 o'clock that afternoon. So I do everything in little time blocks now, because I'm one of the most disorganized people you'll meet. I have to do this, otherwise I miss deadlines and it affects my cash flow. See, the faster I can finish projects, the more money I can make, the more I can start working on other projects. But so that's how I've disciplined myself over the years. Is just work. My iPhone timer is constantly on. I'm timing myself doing everything, because if I don't put a timer on it, it blows way out all the time, and you just lose days.
Makes sense.
Excellent.
Thanks very much for that, Brett. I appreciate it. I'm not going to take up any more of your time, because, as William knows, I'll take over if you let me. So I'll hand you back to William.
Thanks, Gordon.
Good on, mate. Hope to meet you soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Likewise. Thanks, Brett. Bye.
See ya.
That's great, Brett. Thanks very much. I only have a couple of real quick things, because I don't want to take up much more of your time either. It's been really kind of you to come on and spend some time with us.
No worries.
You talked about, how the sort of market research and understanding your market was a very key element of crafting the offer and so on and so forth. When you're researching whichever market you're in, what's the sort of key elements that you're looking for during your market research phase?
Okay. Well, a little bit different. I mean, I'm very low tech. I'm not very high tech like probably most people on this call. And there's probably so many tools you can do with keyword research and all that kind of stuff. And that's probably an area I need to kind of step up towards. But I'm more concentrated on who the client is. And I'll give you an example of what length that I go to research. So if someone approached me, which happens all the time, say, Brett, we want you to write copy for us. I said, okay, no worries. And I'll send them a questionnaire. And in the questionnaire, it gets them, the business owner will tell me about their business, and I'll ask them questions about their client. Like, what are their 3 biggest frustrations? What kind of keeps them up at night? What are their objections? Why won't they buy from you? What are their desires, fears, wants and needs, and all that kind of stuff. So the business owner filled all that out to me, and I read through it. And a B grade copywriter will stop there and start writing copy, right?
Yeah.
But I know that the business owner is not the client.
Yeah.
Okay. So what this is what I do that I don't know many other copywriters who do this. I'll say, can you give me a list, 10 of your best clients or your most recent clients, and they'll give me their contact details, and I'll ring them up, and I'll say, like, if I'm writing a project for you, William,
Yeah.
and there'll be one of the guys on the list might be his name John, so I'll ring John up and say, hey, g'day John, it's Bret Thomson here, mate. How you going? He said, very good. I said, look, you don't know me from a bar of soap. I'm a good friend of William's. And they go, oh yeah. And then I'll say, look, I'm helping William with a marketing project right now, and I asked him to give me a list of his kind of 10 favourite clients, and you were up the top of the list. So I'm just wondering if I can ask you some questions. And I make that call over and over again, and I've had 100% positive success rate. Everyone says, yeah, no worries. And I'll ask them about, and here's what I asked them. I used to ask dumb questions like, what headline would work for you these days, and that doesn't work. The best thing I do is, can you tell me your story? How did you first come across William? And they'll start telling me their story, and as they're going through that, I'll jump in and say, how are you feeling at this stage, and why didn't you buy straight away, or were you looking at other clients, and what made you choose William over someone else, and things like that. So all that information is like gold for me, because I get so much value and gold. I really tap into their emotions and what they're feeling, and so people buy with emotion, and they justify with logic. So the buying decision is emotional. So I need to tap into what they're feeling at the time when they're looking at the blank screen. Not the blank screen. They're looking at the computer screen. I need to understand what kind of conversations are happening inside their mind. Yeah. Because if one of the great principles by a famous copywriter called Robert Collier says you have to enter the conversations people are having in their mind, and if you can describe somebody's problem better than they can, then they automatically think you'll have the answer.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that's the kind of the level of research that I go to, and that's really without.
Yeah, I mean, that's
the non-techie version.
Something I'm about to embark on myself as well, and probably everyone listening to this call now will know that they've got to expect a call from me, because I will be calling members up, the sort of founding members at jvfocus.com, and having a conversation with them. So although I know my market space quite well, with facilitating a joint venture group for the last few years, I feel like I should know them better. So picking the phone up, because I've had hundreds of calls over the last few years with other marketers who are members in the free group, and I just feel now, because it's a subscription based environment, that I need to do that calls again and really get to know them, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. And one thing you really need to understand is, and for everyone on the call, is why won't they buy from you?
Yeah.
So you got to overcome that. What's stopping people from buying from buying from you? So, and you need to overcome that nice and early in your copy.
Cool. The only last question I've got, Brett, and you probably answered it already, but I just wanted to make sure. Do you write a single line of copy, or let me just sort of mix it up a little bit. Do you always do the headline first before you write a single line of copy? That's the right way round.
Yeah, well, I do actually. people are different. I know some marketers, they start with their offer. They really get their offer down packed, and then they write the copy around that, because that's sometimes the headline is influenced by the offer. But I personally like to write the headline first. But sometimes something else I do as well is if I had to sell, say, an ebook, for instance, which I don't really sell anything like that these days, but if I had to, I'd read the ebook from cover to cover, and as I'm writing it, as I'm reading it, I'd write bullet points. If there's a really important point that I was interested in, or I could put a good curiosity spin on it, I'd start writing a bank of bullet points. And those bullet points are kind of like mini headlines anyway.
Sure.
But really, for me to write the whole sales letter, I have to get the top part of the sales letter down packed first. I've got to have the headline and the pre-head and the subhead. Once I get that really humming, then all of a sudden everything will flow. But not everyone is like that.
Yeah.
I know, but that's how that's where it all stems for me.
Well, that's perfect. Thanks very much.
No worries.
Well, what can I say? I'm blown away, and I really do appreciate your time, Bret, and I'm sure everybody on the call will join me in thanking you for your time. You've got you got to tell the guys about your product that's coming out soon. You got to speak about that for a minute and tell us all about it.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Over the last 18 months or so, I've developed a automated sales letter software, which is there's been a few of those out there in a number of years, which are very basic level, and I've used to think at them and kind of look at them and think, nice try, but it doesn't really hit the hot points, and it's not specific enough. So the software I've developed is what it does is it gets you to list out your customers' emotions and what problems they're facing, and what desires what feelings they desire to feel, and what and all the benefits, all those kind of things. So and basically once you enter those into the software and you press generate, within it might take 5 minutes, you've got a full long form sales that are written for you.
Wow.
That's been practically written by me. It's all the successful copy that I've written, and has all the proper elements in the correct order.
Yeah.
So and another thing that's quite different is a lot of those other sales letter generators, they just give you like a one size fit all. There's like one headline and that's it. But if you don't like the headline that's suggested, you can just click a button to the right, and you can choose from one of hundreds of different headlines, or different bullet points, different openings, different call to actions, different guarantees, and it's all copy that I've personally written. I haven't had it been outsourced. It's all my writing that's been pulled from some of the most successful campaigns that I've written on. And again, for me to write a sales letter campaign these days, it starts at 25K and goes up after that.
Yeah.
So it's the closest thing you can get to me writing it for you. And another cool thing is it's niche specific, so you can choose if you want to write towards the weight loss, business, or making money, personal development, and things like that.
Very cool. I can't wait to see it, and I'll put out in the jvfocus tomorrow more details on your product launch coming up, and let all the guys know about it, and we'll syndicate that around for you, get the word out. And once again, sorry,
I'll just say it's going to be pretty healthy commissions for everyone too. So it'll be exciting launch, and what I love about it is there's nothing else there like it. It's not like something that you can't compare to anything else, which is pretty awesome to be the first one for people to introduce it to your list and database. It's,
very cool.
It's really going to take off.
Well, thanks very much again, mate. I really appreciate your time and appreciate you for sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us, and I'm sure all the guys are very grateful to you that's on the call today, and we'll be in touch very soon.
No worries. All right, thanks for your time, William. Appreciate it, mate.
Thanks, mate. Okay, guys,
See you,
just
buddy.
going to wrap up and catch you all later. Bye.